What's going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, June 15th, a Throwback Thursday, one of my favorite days of the week. And I'm stoked to be back following a pretty electric Dynamite and heading into the first episode of Collision. I've got my usual co-pilot riding with me tonight, the goose to my Maverick. Of course, I would be Maverick in this situation, but the head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you on this fine Thursday, my friend?
Of course, you would cast yourself in the Tom Cruise role.
Yeah. Well, Goose dies.
Oh, that's right. All right, so I'm dead. So should I just leave now?
All right, no, I didn't mean it like that.
Great way to start the show, Clark. Great way.
Bad. I didn't mean it like that.
First time you and I are even talking about wrestling this week, which is probably the first time ever that we've kind of went an entire week legitimately, not only on screen but off screen, not talking about wrestling at all in the brief conversations you and I have had this week. So this is the first time I'm back on the show in a week, my contractually obligated one-time appearance each week. So it should be interesting to talk about Dynamite and, of course, our very interesting throwback topic this week.
Well, I got to say, I mean, it is funny because it has been a week that we've basically gone without talking about any of the shows because, I mean, we haven't had a co-appearance on a show since last Thursday. And then not only that, this whole school thing sucks. And not to shout out my school because I'm not even going to do that, but college guys, woof, a lot of work.
And you went back.
Just too much work. Yeah. It's so much work. They're asking you to write stuff and say stuff, present things, do math, all this stuff.
We know you're anti-math.
It's the worst. But more importantly than school, much more importantly than school, let's get right into AEW Dynamite. That way we can get to our throwback topic as soon as humanly possible. Let's start with Maxwell Jacob Friedman versus Adam Cole in a title eliminator. Maybe not. I don't know. It had a time limit. We found out in the intro for the match, which Justin Roberts did a great job of letting us know of in the pregame intro. But I want your thoughts on this match and where are we going from here?
Generally, my opinion on eliminator matches, or I think WWE calls them contender matches, when you face the champion and if you win, you get a title match. I got to be honest, as a whole, I'm not a fan of those. My opinion has always been that if the champion ends up winning, or if the champion's going to win or it's going to end up in a draw, make it a title match. What is the harm in making it a title match? Because it adds more prestige to the title. If you're not going to have the champion eventually lose the title to this person anyway, what's the difference? I really enjoyed this match. It was hard hitting. It's what it needed to. It was a great match to open a show or close it. It had to go one or the other bookend. The draw finish I thought was a smart move, especially if you're going to do another Adam Cole MJF match. I'm just not sure where you're going to go because you've already announced Forbidden Door. It's MJF and Tanahashi. So are you doing it at all in? But that's still several months out. So are you going to do it on a Dynamite? Are you going to do it on a Collision? Like, where are you going to do this eventual rematch? Or is Adam just going to go off and do other things while MJF does other things and then you come back after? That's the only thing I'm not sure where this goes.
I totally hear where you're coming from there. It's one of those things where it's funny. I can't stand title eliminator matches. If you're going to wrestle the champion, wrestle for the belt.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to go to a time limit draw. In hindsight, it makes it even worse.
Or if the champion's going to win, yeah.
Which is frustrating, right? If the champion is going to win, then who cares?
Yeah, but make it a title.
It counts as a title defense too with Raw. I mean, why would it not be? And we, at the same time, though, I'll say, I thought the match was electric. in its own way.
Mhm.
And we've got a comment here from our very own David Sheldon. Hello, lads. Great episode of Dynamite this week. I totally agree.
Yes.
And on that note, I'm even going to shout you out. Gave this match 4.5 stars, and I agree it deserved it. But I think that half star, simply put, had to do with the pre-booking and nothing that happened out there in the match. And I would never argue with this rating, but there's no reason, if this is a title match and it's a time limit draw, it's not a 4.75 or a 5.0. The only reason, and I think deservedly so, to take a half star from this match from Adam Cole and MJF, who put on an excellent match. The only reason to take a half star away is because it was virtually meaningless at the end of the day. And that's just so disappointing. Anthony, what do you think?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, and like I just said, I don't know where this goes. Like, or is this a long-term feud? Is this a one-off? Like, where are we going? The Forbidden Door thing kind of throws a monkey wrench in it because they're going AEW versus New Japan guys. So it's a weird because it's almost the Forbidden Door is almost like an all-star game, National League versus the American League. There's really not a rivalry there. It's a forced one because they're not really in contention with one another. So so the MJF Tanahashi, it's a one-off. So, but meanwhile, you got this other feud going. What are you going to do with it? And then the other factor, which we don't know, does Punk come looking for his belt? That's where he left off. He lost. That's where he left off. Winning his title off of Moxley, and he was supposed to feud with MJF. Does that come into play? Like, how many people is MJF going to be feuding with at the same time? At some point,
it's hard. That one's hard to quantify because, it feels like everyone's kind of coming at him, and we've even got CM Punk now in the cards.
Yep.
Given their history and everything, so
I mean, I get it. The champion has a bullseye. Everyone's gunning for him. That's fine. But they need to figure out, okay, what are they focusing on now? Because right now you have two things going on. You got Adam Cole that went to a draw, which he's going to want another match. At least he should. He wanted 5 more minutes, but, in typical heel fashion, why would he agree to it? Adam Cole wouldn't have agreed to it as a heel champion in Ring of Honor or NXT. He wasn't going to give He wasn't going to give Kyle O'Reilly 5 extra minutes if they went to a draw.
Right?
Why would MJF? So I know they have to do that, but why? Everyone knows he's not going to go yes. No heel's ever going to say yes.
Right. So how do you feel about the potential Tanahashi matchup? So I mean, before you get into it.
Go.
I loved the way he was like, oh yeah, that guy from the indie promotion in Japan. Like, no. This is one of my favorite things from last night, that promo. The match itself, though, it's another proving ground. You add him to the list with Danielson and all the people that MJF's worked with so far. It's hard to deny his in-ring acumen if he can pull off a really, really good one with Tanahashi. Your thoughts on that?
But part of me, because he's so disparaged New Japan, an indie thing, I almost want one of two things. Either MJF never works these shows, and that's the whole gimmick of him being, I'm above New Japan. But the problem is, if he faces Tanahashi, he's the champion. I don't believe Tony would want him to lose. So in this case, the heel's going to beat the guy he's disrespecting, and Tanahashi's never really going to get revenge. On the same breath, Okada has always been protected by New Japan. I don't necessarily think, and I know this is a little sidetrack, but I'm going there anyway. I don't think New Japan's going to agree to Okada losing to Danielson. So I don't know if that's the agreement. Okada goes over, so MJF goes over. I don't know if that's the direction they're going to go, but that would not shock me. Or some fishy finish that's not, it's not going to be clean probably in that situation. But I think Tanahashi MJF could be a great match. MJF knows how to work these things. I don't know if Tanahashi could go. He's not going to go verbally with him. It's not going to happen. And I don't know if Tanahashi. I think MJF's going to have to carry more of the load than Tanahashi storytelling wise, just based on his character. And Tanahashi, he's great in the ring, but I don't know if he could do the storytelling as well as MJF can.
Definitely. I don't know. Tanahashi MJF is pretty enticing, I think, in my eyes. It's one of those things where I don't know. I'm unsure because it's hard to tell the other side of the story against an MJF with somebody that's not going to be able to cut promos against.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why I think MJF's going to have to carry more of the storytelling because of the language situation.
Right. Outside of that, though, I'm still excited about the match as a whole. It's one of those things where, yeah, I kind of got to see how this one plays out.
Mm-hmm.
But on paper, at least, MJF Tanahashi is intriguing.
Yes.
For sure. Let's move on, though. We've got Sammy Guevara's returned.
Okay.
Which, I don't know. I thought, okay, it was cool. And maybe if you have a baby, you're a baby face. I don't know. Maybe he's not a baby face. Maybe he is. I don't really know what the deal is here. I think Sammy Guevara is an unbelievable bell-to-bell talent. I don't know what to do with him anymore in AEW. And I want to figure it out. Anthony, how do you feel about it?
To me, this segment got killed for me for a very small thing. But to me, it was kind of a big deal. Jericho coming out and saying, you owe me. Why didn't you call me? Dude, you were in one of the video packages hyping him up for the Four Corners match, or Four Pillars match. What do you mean you weren't involved? You were on that. Like this, I'm not supposed to remember he was in a promo package for you? Like, that annoyed me. And you don't even have to be watching long term. It was a couple weeks ago. It was less than a month ago. Like, now all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe Sammy and Jericho have heat? Like, what? Like, I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. I don't know what they're doing with Sammy. I think he's always going to be kind of viewed as either Jericho's lackey. He's been in two stables with him. Didn't really get elevated either time. I mean, he had a TNT title ring, but who hasn't in that company at this point?
Right.
And I just don't know. He's going to be viewed as a lackey and a crash test dummy. Like, he'll do high flying stuff, but it doesn't necessarily make sense to a story. Like, he's a great high flyer, but is he a good storyteller? I don't think so. I think he's flashy, he's exciting, but do I put him in the same vein of like a Shawn Michaels or an Eddie Guerrero that could do that stuff, but also tell a story? I don't know. And I've been watching Sammy since his days at Wrestle Circus. That was the first time I saw him on Twitch watching Wrestle Circus. And I went, this guy is a great high flyer. But I don't think he's improved since I saw him all those years ago. It's pretty much the same thing. Like, I don't really see much of an advancement.
I think he's been stuck in too many groups is a big part of it. And I think it's time for him to really go out on his own. Now, to piggyback off of all that, we had a little Jericho and Sting encounter last night.
Yes.
And with the bats, I loved that.
Yes.
I love that. That touched on every WCW childhood heartstring that is left in my little heart. And I loved it. I mean,
how is it we haven't seen a bat versus bat thing really? Like, realistically, like that, like, I'm stunned we haven't seen like that.
I mean,
almost exact segment. I mean, we did see Sting and Triple H, the sledgehammer and bat thing. We did see that, but like, we've never really seen that. Even in WCW, we didn't see it.
100%. And David is commenting with, I call this tag match on a podcast on Monday. I will take my royalties in the post, please, Tony. He is absolutely right. He did basically word for word book this, and it was pretty impressive. At the end of the day, Jericho Sting at Wembley.
I think that's what it is. It's kind of funny when Jericho made a statement of going, "I'll never with Sting," and I'm going, the moment you said that, you know what's happening. Like it was like, listen, Taker could say that. Taker's retired. They're two separate companies. You are in the same company, and we know you're checking boxes. And if Sting's retiring sometime soon, if you don't want a Sting match, I call you a liar. Because
so while we're here, how cool would it be if Jericho gets him in the walls? Gets him in the walls, and Sting reverses it into the Scorpion Deathlock.
I don't know.
Could you imagine?
I don't know if Sting could pull it off. That would be my only concern.
No, but I think I'm not thinking like, oh, he like bridges up and does it that way. I'm thinking he rolls through. Mm-hmm. So he's stuck in the classic, maybe even the Lion Tamer, like knee on the back. Sting could roll, and then that would allow him the opportunity to stand up and then put the foot through and lock up the Scorpion Deathlock. That pop would be at Wembley. Are you kidding me? It would blow what's left of the roof off that place. And there's only some roof, right? Only the fans are covered, not the ring or the middle. But it would blow that part of the roof off the place.
Whatever's there, yeah.
Yeah, whatever's left is gone at that point.
Yeah, and I'd be curious whether or not I think he'd pull out different. I think he would pull out special paint from Wembley. I would think he would.
I think he might go red and black, which should be really cool.
He could go red and black, or I mean, he could go.
Surfer?
No, he wouldn't go. He could go patriotic, but I don't think he would because he's not British, so it wouldn't really make sense.
Surfer.
There's no wall. It would be Surfer with the hair he has. It wouldn't be true Surfer.
It's not the Surfer, so I think the move would be red and black.
You're thinking Wolfpack Sting?
Yeah.
I mean, I did see in TNA he actually did do different colors. Like he did the normal white and black, but he did throw red.
When the Joker Sting was amazing.
The Joker, but this was pre-Joker Sting. Like he added little red, and he did add some stuff to it, especially in his title matches. Yeah. David
just asked a question, and man, David, we're buddies, but I'm going to answer this one myself.
I have yet to work with David.
Yeah, if it's Sting and Chris Jericho, the answer is absolutely yes. Are you kidding me?
The years of experience that the two guys have.
Would you like to see Jordan and Kobe one-on-one? Like, yeah. You want to see Tom Brady, Peyton Manning one more time? Yes. You want to see two of the best to ever lace up a pair of boots? Do it even at this age? Absolutely, 1,000% yes.
This falls into the same category of Undertaker Sting. As much as everyone goes, the match would have been shit, right? You know you'd want to watch it because it's Taker. It's a dream match. There's not many dream matches left. And, you know, you can go, oh, Omega and Roman. It's not. Realistically, dream matches are like two of the greatest ever to face one another. Right. And no offense to Kenny or anything like that, but Jericho and Sting have been at the top of the mountain for 30 years easy between the two of them.
Could you imagine in their physical primes how great it would be? But who cares?
Yeah, listen, I want to see the match regardless.
Michaels Taker Bad Blood. I love both Michaels Taker WrestleMania matches. Love them. Absolutely. Michaels Taker Bad Blood is their physical prime. Go watch the match. It's more athletic.
I think that's the greatest.
It's the best. It's the best of all time. It's the best of the three matches. The three big Shawn Taker matches. Both the ones at Mania, Bad Blood, the In Your House one. You go back and watch Shawn in his physical prime against Taker in his physical prime. They're amazing.
That was pre the back injury, too.
100%. The back injury happens in the casket match against Taker after, which arguably is better than one of the two Mania matches. But we forgot all about that during the Mania matches. We forgot all about their ages because it didn't matter anymore. And I think that'd be the same exact situation if you get Jericho and Sting in a ring on a stage that large, you will see vintage of both.
It's not going to
will
be
not look like a 52-year-old versus a 64-year-old. It's not going to be a 30-minute match. To your point, I'm not trying to cut you off on that. But it's you will see them turn back the clock, for lack of a better term. Not to just throw a cliche trope out there, but the clock will be turned back if that matchup happens in front of a crowd that's that hot and that big.
They know how to smoke and mirror it.
I have no doubts.
They'll be smoke
that
and
will
mirrors.
deliver. That match will deliver.
They'll know what they're doing. And quite frankly, if they're really that desperate, they'll add a stipulation. They'll add weapons. They'll add things to stretch it out more. Absolutely. Maybe it's a bat on a pole. Maybe they'll do something.
Well, let's not go full Vince Russo. Let's not put anything on a pole.
He put Viagra. Well, I mean, listen. Let's put
Judy Bagwell on a forklift.
As long as Darby's not in a shark cage or on a forklift, I think we're good.
Or we'll be fine.
But anyway.
But no, let's move on to the next match, which was Mogul Embassy, Swerve, Strickland, and his guys versus Darby Allin, Sting, Keith Lee, and Orange Cassidy. So we kind of got into some of this. Did you have any extra thoughts on this one?
No, it was all right. The only other thought that I had was I was curious why Darby got in the middle of the Sammy Jericho thing, since he's got this other feud apparently now going. Like, that's the thing. Like, these things happen, and I'm like, are they feuds or are they just one-offs? Because like after it, then Orange is involved with Zack Sabre and involved with Daniel Garcia, and I'm going, okay, I get he's a champion and people have targets on him, but like, how many storylines are all these people involved with? It's like 3 or 4 stories to keep track of who they're feuding with or have issues with. It's a little strange. The Keith Lee Swerve thing, that needs to pay off at some point. Like, them doing it in multi-man matches is not it. Like, at some point, you got to do the one-on-one match, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Orange Cassidy, I'm a little bit nervous, is starting to become like too much of a plug and play figure inside of AEW, and I don't think that's right. I would prefer Orange to just focus on defending the title, maybe do some trios work with Best Friends, but teaming with all the different people that he does week in and week out right now, it doesn't make sense. Like, I thought he had Best Friends. You know,
what is the story with him and the Best Friends? Because they're together and they're not together.
Well, I think every time Forbidden Door comes around, because he wasn't so much involved with them in New Japan, and Roppongi Vice was such a big thing.
Yeah.
That's where it kind of throws some mud in the water on that team as a whole. I'm a huge fan of the Best Friends in OC. I actually think that's where the best work happens, especially promo wise. Trent and Chuck both do an amazing job of allowing Orange to be Orange. Even Statlander being involved, I don't mind at all in that group. I like that group. I like the factions in AEW when they had solid factions, and they don't necessarily always have to be working together, but the fact that they exist, like almost like the cliques.
Yeah.
It felt like, not like with a K, but like click.
Yes.
Right? Like I enjoyed that because it didn't feel like gang warfare necessarily, but it did feel like, you know, like you could organize the room mentally when you're looking at the big picture. Yeah. And I think they got away from that in a way because of, like, you know, some failures with the firm. I like what they're doing with Mogul Embassy, but even the JAS has kind of been ebbed and flowed, and I like what they're doing with the BCC, but I don't know. At the same time, it's a little weird. It's like just sweatpants and stuff. It'd be a lot better with Regal. It's kind of a shame that didn't work out in my eyes. And that's not Regal's fault. I get going back and like your son's there and everything. Like, no, whatever, right? That's just reality. But it would be, I think, a more fun situation with him running a heel BCC.
Well, the thing is, and I keep harping on this every week. Why is Don Callis not?
I don't get it.
Yeah, like, I don't understand it.
To be honest, this is really interesting. If it wasn't Callis, I didn't think about this. Taz fits the aesthetic as well as anybody.
Yeah,
No,
we've,
but with
we've kind of already seen Team Taz.
Yes, we saw Team Taz. He doesn't necessarily have to be like the leader, but a mouthpiece and a manager involved. I wouldn't actually mind that because he fits with the submission stuff, and I think it'd be interesting because you could see maybe some former Team Taz people kind of feud with them. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's the move, but I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, wait a minute, Taz kind of fits it better than maybe even Regal.
I think the two best options was the one that I said, Don Callis, which which in all fairness, I was the first one to say that when you and I were on here, and then you mentioned somebody else who I think would be phenomenal for it. You said Dan Lambert.
Lambert would be the best.
I think one of those two as the quote unquote invisible hand.
I forgot about Lambert. Lambert would be the best.
I think Don and then maybe Lambert, but I think from a storyline
because of the American Top Team thing to make the Black. What would be hilarious actually is if somehow they pulled it off, and almost as like a little bit of how do you like us now? They changed the name to American Top Team. That would be great. Just as like not like an FU, but like a frick you at not Regal, but at
how's that fall with Claudio technically? Because I don't know if he has American citizenship.
Here's what I would say though is like American Top Team, for example, like the team, that's the actual name of the team that Dan Lambert owns, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, the mix of fighters is so eclectic, like fighters from Brazil, from global, everywhere, Russia, Brazil, Canada, what I mean, Mexico, America, all over, everywhere. Like the American, even like Brazilian Top Team had Americans when it existed, right? It's just the name of the gym, essentially, not the gym, but like the team.
Yeah.
Because y'all like even Jorge Masvidal is originally Cuban, and like, right, like you've got, I mean, the amount of people that have trained Amanda Nunes, who just retired. She from Brazil trained at American Top Team. And I think it'd be kind of interesting to give them the ATT branding. I don't know if that's doable, but that'd be really fun with Lambert. I would enjoy that for sure. But with that, let's move on to our next subject, which is Wardlow versus Jake Hager. And I saw you shrug like that, and that's
what it was.
No, it was a match, and it wasn't. I hate to say this. How was it not as good as their MMA fight? That was bad.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I remember from this is the quasi fake Arn is going for his gun type bit.
Yeah,
like on one hand, you're like, okay, Wardlow retained, great, because they've been hot potatoing it. But at the same point, you're like, they're not giving it to Hager.
We have two of the most physically talented big men in the industry, and that's what we got.
It's a bathroom break.
Are you serious? And Wardlow's so good. And I'm one of those people that actually believes Hager's amazing, because he is. Jake Hager, physical talent-wise, he could put on a grappling display against Brock. If they're in a freestyle or a folk style wrestling match, Hager's got a chance against Brock. You can count those people, on not so many hands. It's not easy to find people that you can say that about. Jake Hager's one of them. I don't get it. What's going on? Just be better. Let's just do better. That's the way I look at it, right? I mean, let's all do better.
I just don't think he was ever really a draw in wrestling, other than the We the People run. But even then,
I agree. But even then, they've never leaned into the fact that he's that good of a wrestler.
They did. I mean, WWE gave him a couple world titles, didn't they?
No, they did that. But I mean, his actual wrestling acumen. He's a 4-time All-American at Oklahoma.
AEW really hasn't done anything with it either.
I know. That's what I'm saying is neither. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I know his resume. I know what he's capable of. I've seen what he does in MMA. Had he gotten into MMA earlier than wrestling, he might be heavyweight champion of the world,
Mm.
right? Like his striking is lacking, but it doesn't even really matter. He's such a world-class grappler that he's gonna take you down at 265 pounds. He weighs in the 250s and takes down 265 pounders like it's no big deal, and then pounds their face in for 2.5 rounds until someone pulls him off. And like,
and
he started in his late 30s.
Realistically, when was the last time Jake Hager had a one-on-one match on AEW TV?
So
like, I don't remember.
Well, and then, by the way, though, one of those underrated matches, him and Moxley for the title was awesome. It was awesome. That was a really, really high quality world title match in the middle of the pandemic with no fans. I don't get it. I'm not saying like Jake Hager deserves better, but like, give him something. I don't know.
I don't understand the logic, and it's not even just with this match, but they're doing it with the women's the TBS championship with Statlander. Why are they just randomly pulling out challengers for this title? Don't they quote unquote have a ranking system? I don't know how Jake Hager ranked high enough to get a title match when he hasn't wrestled. Like, none of these people are wrestling, but yet they're getting title matches. But Adam Cole, he can't get a title match. He can only get an eliminator match. What?
Yeah, like, it makes no sense.
That drives me nuts, because you won't see Hager again in a one-on-one match for months. He'll be in catering with Nyla Rose,
right?
And whoever Statlander fought last week, I forget who it was.
Well, and we got another comment here from David Sheldon. I feel like Hager might benefit from going to RH for a bit. I actually think that's a great call.
Yeah.
Maybe a feud with Brian Cage somehow would be cool. That's a great. I love the big man versus big man thing for Hager, because he's one of those guys grappling wise that can slam huge people.
Yeah. Ring of Honor needs a distinct roster too, because right now
I agree.
They don't have it. And I know we'll get to it. Thought Eddie Kingston was there. Now he's not. Like, they need to figure out what they want to do with Ring of Honor. Is it going to be plug and play, or are you actually going to give them an actual roster?
Right. Let's move on, though, to a match that I loved last night. Maybe my favorite match of the night. From Chicago, Sky Blue versus Tony Storm.
Yeah.
Tony broke out good old Dean Malenko's signature Texas Cloverleaf and got the tap after an absolute banger of a women's title match.
Yeah.
This one, I think, surprised a lot of people. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good showing for both of them. Tony Storm taunting and spraying, Sky's mother in the crowd. I thought that was it was nice heel work. But again, this is another one of those matches where it's like, okay, Sky's granite. It was a title match, right?
Yes, this one was a title.
Okay, why? Why
earned it on Rampage? So she won a fatal four-way.
Okay, all right. Understood. That's fine.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Haven't watched Rampage. Got it. All right.
No, I totally hear you on
at least that one made sense.
It's funny. So, like, we talked about it yesterday, and it's interesting because I'll admit I did not watch Rampage on Friday. I watched it recorded later. The Fatal 4 was actually awesome. I presented this yesterday on the show, and I don't know if you caught it or whatnot. It doesn't matter, but I think you'll find this one interesting. So Sky Blue is from Chicago.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
And so both times I've been to All Out the last 2 years in a row. She's performed on either Dark or Rampage both years. And I was at both, right? And excellently, to a huge reception.
Yeah.
From the Chicago crowd. Chicago knows she's from Chicago. Let's put it that way. It's the best way I could sum it up.
She's hometown.
Right?
Yeah.
Chicago very much is aware she's a Chicago girl.
Yeah, I get you.
Saturday night is Collision. Why do we not put this match that she earned last week on Rampage
on Collision?
She's from Chicago on Collision, because if it's on Collision, and David, I think, rightfully gave it 3.5 stars. I think if they wrestle this very same match in 48 hours, it's a 4.25, and it's Sky Blue's not crowning moment, but it's her come out party. It's her parade to hang on. You got to keep an eye on Sky Blue. She is that good.
And
I believe she is. I've seen her perform. I've seen the receptions she can get. It's a little bit like Willow Nightingale, but even almost more, I think, under the radar. Her and Willow, I think, are two women that are the future of the AEW, not only TBS title picture, but AEW Women's World title picture. Both Sky Blue and Willow Nightingale, no doubt in my mind.
And I think you would have gotten way more heat with Tony beating the hometown girl in her hometown, refusing to let go of the cloverleaf, which she didn't.
Right.
And I think they would have got a lot more heat with her attacking Sky's mother if it was in the hometown.
Yes.
So why would you stick this? It doesn't make sense. Listen, if you're nowhere near Chicago anytime soon, this makes sense, putting it on Dynamite. 2 days? You couldn't wait 2 days.
Saturday.
You couldn't take the match that would have been on Collision and put that on Dynamite. You couldn't have switched?
72 hours. You just had to wait 72 hours.
72 hours.
Real easy.
Yeah. That was a dumb move.
And to be completely honest, though, to Sky Blue's credit, she put in a performance that was still noteworthy. So yes. I do not want to take anything away from that.
Oh no, it was a great match. For what they had time-wise.
I mean, given the time that they had, the Cloverleaf, Tony Storm looked amazing as always.
Yeah.
Sky Blue deserved the opportunity in the first place. Deserved it in her hometown. In now 48 would have been 72 hours. And still delivered in Washington, D.C., and that's impressive. I got to give him credit. The match was awesome. The match was absolutely awesome. We got another comment here. Tony Storm doesn't get enough credit with how good a seller she is. She made Sky look really strong in the short time it had. Should have been in Chicago, though. Absolutely, David. Thank you so much. And I agree with you. Tony Storm is an excellent professional wrestler. Bell to bell, ropes to ropes, all of that. She's awesome all around. And I thought she sold well in her world title match that I was at All Out in 22. Underrated when it comes to that and overlooked often. I 100% agree with that comment. But let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Which is the Sonata versus Jungle Boy announcement. How do you feel about it?
I don't really watch much New Japan. Had no idea Sonata was their champion. I don't. Jungle Boy's not beating them for the title. It may be entertaining. It's not a must buy for me. If I'm looking at that for the pay-per-view, okay. It doesn't do anything for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I really don't know enough about Sonata to even get too excited. So I apologize. I wish I had more to say about this one, but huge fan of Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Hope he puts on a heck of a match.
It'll be competitive, but we know he's not winning it.
I mean, heck, dude, I was a fan of Luke Perry, his dad. I thought he was a great actor, but not the point. Let's move along to the Young Bucks and Hangman Page, aka the Hung Bucks, versus the Blackpool Combat Club, the previously mentioned Blackpool Combat Club.
Yeah,
this was a fun one. I mean, this was very pro wrestling. Let's put it that way.
I understand why they didn't hold this one off for Chicago.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think the Young Bucks and Hangman will be on Saturday, so I understand why this one was on Dynamite. I also understand, this is ultimately going to lead to blood and guts. That's where this is all headed. In theory, that's where this is going to come to a head. I don't fully understand the Eddie Kingston aspect to it. The only way it makes sense to me is if, for whatever reason, they couldn't get Ibushi for this, because presumably that's where they were going with this. So I do find it interesting that they stuck Eddie in here. I loved Ospreay taking out Kenny. I thought that was nicely done. I've said this before. I think Ospreay should have won in January at Wrestle Kingdom. I understood your argument because you argued with me. Well, Kenny will be on TV. He'll be able to showcase the U.S. title. New Japan benefits from it. They really haven't done that. You forget every time that he's technically the U.S. champion until they conveniently decide to pull it out and going, oh, by the way, he's the U.S. champ. He's going to defend it. Like, you don't remember it. He doesn't wear the belt. So I really think Ospreay should win this. I assume the direction they're going to go with this is if Ospreay beats him at Forbidden Door, presumably maybe a rubber match at All in Wembley, and hopefully Kenny would put him over and Ospreay would get the 2-1 up on Kenny. Ospreay's got the brighter future. He's the younger guy. Talent-wise, they're both extremely talented, but for my money, I think Ospreay is a once-in-a-generation type talent in that ring. The series of matches I've seen him have, like was it last year or whatever it was, in the month of January, I think he took on like Okada, Brian Cage, and Michael Oku. And 3 completely different styles, all within a matter of weeks, and all 3 matches were unbelievable. But that one is, for me, my money, Forbidden Door, the matches that have been out so far, Ospreay and Omega is the one I would want to see.
The way he like stalked Kenny last night and he got him. I mean, just what more can you ask for?
Yep.
I remember the conversation that you're talking about where I mentioned, well, Kenny will be able to show it. You're right.
Yes.
He needs to start bringing it to the ring.
Yeah.
But we'll say this, he's still Kenny Omega.
Oh, of course. I'm not saying
as much as we not like to, but it's easy to be critical of Kenny because Kenny can be a bit corny. There's no doubt he can't. I love him, but he can be corny. I still think he's a top 5 wrestler in the world.
Oh, he is.
I still think if you could pick anyone to stand opposite Will Ospreay for one match, I'd have a hard time not picking Kenny.
Over Seth Rollins?
Honest to goodness, it would depend on which ring they're wrestling in.
Okay.
If it's in the WWE against Seth Rollins, I have no desire to see Seth Rollins versus Will Ospreay. I think stylistically it would.
Because you think it would be too predictable?
I think it would hinder Ospreay. Yeah, I think it would hurt him bad. If they're going to wrestle in Japan, are you kidding? I mean, yeah, sign me up and no.
Okay.
Come on. If they're going to do it in AEW, if they're going to do it in Indie, like if they're going to do it, in Times Square, I of course but outside of that, who would you pick besides Kenny? Because
you really
I think the two of them can hang with each other in a way almost no one else can. Maybe AJ, but physically I don't think AJ is there in the way that they are right now. Maybe Brian, but even Brian with the concussion stuff, it's not the same. It's one of those things where I think you really can't. It's a little bit like right this second, if somehow they could book John Jones and Israel Adesanya, right? Israel Adesanya is the 185-pound champion. He's lost twice in his career ever, but he redeemed the one, and then the other one was up a weight class. Yeah. John Jones is now moved to heavyweight, so they're 2 weight classes apart as opposed to 1 like before. But if you could book that, I mean, take my money, right? Like it's if that was possible.
Do you, before we get the throwback, one question I have. Do you agree with me that the Eddie Kingston throw-in is probably because for whatever reason they couldn't get Ibushi? So
that I did want to address as well, and I'm really glad you threw that out there. I think it's New Japan is the reason for no Ibushi. I think
because I don't think he left. He didn't leave there on the best of terms, right?
No, not even close. in fact, terrible terms. I think that the reason that it's Kingston and not Ibushi is because Ibushi wasn't possible. I don't think it ever was Ibushi. I think Ibushi's in the cards after Forbidden Door.
Well, no, I
That's
don't.
when we get Ibushi.
Yeah, but I thought they would have brought him in for the Blood and Guts, which is not a Forbidden Door type thing. So that's why I didn't put the New Japan thing in there, because I
But
didn't think that
is
was
Blood
in
and
play.
Guts before Forbidden Door?
I don't think they've ever actually announced when it is.
That's
I
why
think-
I think they're going to do it after Forbidden Door. And
Well,
then
it would
they're
have to
bringing
be,
in
but still,
Ibushi.
but like, why even bother bringing in Kingston for this? Because it's not going to Forbidden Door.
Because
Like,
of Kingston's history at Forbidden Door.
yeah, but they're not doing the Elite and the Combat Club at Forbidden Door, are they?
No, but Eddie has the history with Combat Club at Forbidden Door, right?
Yeah, but
And
what
then-
would that have to do with New Japan, though?
See, I think this has nothing to do with Forbidden Door. It's going to go beyond it, and they're going to tell us that story. That part of this
Mm-hmm.
was not Forbidden Door related.
No. But you mentioned about Ibushi possibly getting blacklisted, so that's why.
No. I think the Ibushi thing is going to happen after Forbidden Door
Okay.
because of the fact that Ibushi and New Japan are not on good terms.
And he's not under contract with them, as far as I know. He is a free
no,
agent.
no, he's a free agent. But they wouldn't allow him on Forbidden Door, and it would hurt, I think, the relationship as a whole, essentially. So I think that's why.
All right.
Okay, also, before we finally get into throwback,
Yes.
one more comment from David Sheldon. Jungle Boy's promo completely telegraphs I am turning on you, Hook.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
as the resident #1 Hookamaniac, I will not stand for that, Jungle Boy. You better figure it out, because the Hookster's coming for you, and the Hookamaniacs will be running wild.
Didn't you just say you were a fan of his dad?
Huge fan of his dad, but I don't care about that anymore. No, you don't go after the Hookster.
Okay.
Dude.
So somebody did point out, I saw somebody posted online, how is it that Hook and Jungle Boy don't have a Head and Shoulders sponsorship? Which I thought was nice.
That's iconic.
But anyway, so we're going to
go. So let's get into Throwback Thursday.
Yes.
It is Throwback Thursday, and let's get into, as a native Philadelphian.
Yes.
We've got, you want to say it?
The original ECW One Night Stand, which was a result of an RVD suggestion, and I think WWE was motivated by, of all things, money, after the success of the rise and fall of ECW DVD. The interesting part with this is, side note on this, when they announced they were doing it, Shane Douglas, who has been on the outs of both WWE and with Paul Heyman, and knew he would not be invited to One Night Stand, decided to do a rival ECW show 2 days prior to One Night Stand, but he did it in the actual ECW arena. So in Philly, because they did One Night Stand in Hammerstein in New York. And I remember hearing at the time, they didn't think the ECW arena would work with this. And that, that building is really not made for the type of stuff that they did, where, they had the rival Eric Bischoff group in the balcony. There is no balcony at the ECW arena. There's not. It's a flat floor with chairs. It's not built for that type of stuff. So yeah, I understood that. The show had a number of interesting matches. It opened up with Jericho and Lance Storm, I believe. And the interesting part with that is I had heard that somebody had suggested, I think it was on Wikipedia, when I was refreshing my memory of the show, somebody said, oh, it wasn't supposed to be Jericho. It was supposed to be Chris Candido, but he passed away 2 months prior. I got to be honest. I think Candido would have been on the show. I have a hard time believing that he was the guy that was going to face Lance Storm, because Lance made it a point of saying, At the time, he wanted that to be his last match because Jericho was his first opponent, and he wanted Jericho to be his last to bookend it. Obviously, that wasn't Lance's last match, but I don't really think the Candido thing. The show's also famous for Paul Heyman's pipe bomb. He told JBL the only reason he's the longest reigning WWE champion on SmackDown is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays. And it was also the infamous promo where he said, "Hide your wives, Edge is here," which was a play on the fact that this was around the same time Matt Hardy got fired.
Wait, no, that's 06.
No, it's 05.
No, that's 06.
It's 05.
I promise it's 06.
No, because Edge faces Cena.
That's at 06.
Yeah, that's at 06. 05, he's in the balcony. You can double check. I'm sure of this.
Okay. Either way, no, keep going.
But anyway, so that whole thing was going on, and then of course the main event, which I'd have to double check this, but the Dudleys are in it.
Yeah, I know you're right. That was at 05.
Yes, the Dudleys are in it. It is their last appearance for WWE before they go to TNA. So this was their last appearance. Other matches that took place, Sabu took on Rhino. Benoit took on Eddie Guerrero.
Yep.
One of the other interesting one, the Mike Awesome match.
Yep.
Mike Awesome left ECW under the worst terms imaginable. He was their reigning ECW world champion. He jumped ship to WCW. Paul Heyman tried to get a court injunction in there, preventing his debut. The settlement was that he could debut, but he could not go out with the ECW world title. The agreement was that he would have to lose it at an ECW show. And it created the first and only time this has ever happened. A WCW contracted wrestler fought a contracted WWF wrestler in an ECW ring for the ECW title and lost the title to Taz. So the fact that he was welcomed back for this, and in one of the best matches of the night, against Masato Tanaka. And Rey Mysterio took on Psychosis as well. So I mean, this was probably one of the best pay-per-views of 05, from what I remember. Probably one of the best pay-per-views of all time.
Absolutely. One thing though that I find fascinating is we always talk about like long matches, right?
Mm-hmm.
The longest match on this card was 11 minutes.
Yep.
We went 7, 6, 6, 7, 11, 10, 11.
Yep.
In 7 matches. Mysterio and Psychosis, I think, deserved more time. That would have been amazing.
Because of the history, yeah.
Yes. Sabu and Rhino was weird. The rest of it was pretty dang impressive. It's hard to deny.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they followed with in 06 was one of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen.
One of the things that I did forget to mention was there's the big brawl at the end with the ECW guys and the Raw guys. And it's infamous because Bradshaw beat up Meanie legitimately in that ring. And, WWE, likely doing damage control, suddenly went, you know what? Let's do the BWO. And to John's credit, he did business with Meanie. And apparently they're like buddies now, which is at least, a nice thing that, at least they buried the hatchet. But that could have marred an otherwise really good tribute show.
I thought the end of the show was one of the coolest parts.
Mm-hmm.
With the celebration in the ring. That's one of those things. It's just such an iconic image. And then even obviously like the Dudleys coming down and hugging Tommy and Bubba saying like, this is all for you.
Yes.
It was very much about Tommy Dreamer. The only one that bugs me is about both.
Mm-hmm.
No Raven. Kills me.
Well, the Raven is one of those ones that, like a Shane Douglas and Don Callis, was another one, because they were both on Hardcore Homecoming. They were essentially blackballed. Now, WWF or WWE did want Terry Funk, but Terry Funk went on record and said, "I could only do one show that weekend, and it's a reason I'm not a millionaire. I did change one because I thought it was being done for the right reasons and not a money grab. Now, the funny part is Terry did wrestle the next year at the 06 one.
No, I know. And not only wrestled like a violent match.
Yes.
That was one of the few times Terry Funk truly made me uncomfortable. When he was bleeding and sitting in the barbed wire, I was like, that's a bit much. I was a 15-year-old. I remember being like, oh.
Terry is one of those ones. I don't even know if I told you this. I met Terry at one of the wrestling conventions. And, it was awkward that night because Tommy had a show, his House of Hardcore, that night at the ECW Arena. And Terry went out there and cut a promo and essentially everyone thought he was dying because he goes, I don't know if I'm probably never going to make it back here again. Like he was telling this whole story, and literally we were all looking at one another going, is Terry Funk dying? Like, what is going on? Like the next day, all the stories were coming out. And then I think Tommy had made a statement of going, Terry's not in the best of health. That's what he meant. He's not dying at this moment, but everyone thought he was. And I'm going, I met him earlier today. He seemed all right. What happened? But
yeah, no, I mean, and by the way, we forget Stone Cold was on this.
Yeah.
Austin was there.
And remember, they did get the rights to the music. Sandman did come out to Enter the Sandman.
Right. No, they played all the real music.
I mean, but yeah, I don't believe it's on the DVD, and I don't think it's on the network. As far as I know, I think it's dubbed over.
I truly believe the only whiff is missing out on Raven. Raven needed to be on that show.
Well,
also personally, for some reason, Raven is my favorite ECW wrestler. So I loved his run in WCW. Like his match with Perry Saturn, I think is one of the most underrated ones. To the one to disband the Flock.
Yeah, I could be wrong timeline wise. This may have been around the same time that he was in the group of people that sued over the independent contractor.
Oh, wait a minute. Didn't he also still have that group like Serotonin in TNA with CM Punk and I think he might have also been.
Yeah, but I don't know. No,
because that was during the Voodoo Kin Mafia wasn't it?
He did do Shane Douglas's show that weekend.
Of course.
I think it had more to do with WWE wouldn't let him on that show. He may have been under TNA contract at the time. I mean, I'd have to cross check the timeline because there were some talent that they wouldn't let appear on there, and Raven might have been one of them.
It's very possible for sure. I mean, either way, it's such a classic, and I can't wait till we do 06 too. That's one of my favorite shows.
That'll be next year.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say next year. Maybe next week.
Oh, you want to cover it?
I mean, we get to choose the topic.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, for everybody, just so they know, the three potential ones that happened in the same week was the 05 and 06 one night stands, and the other was the Vince McMahon whodunit murder mystery when his limo was blown up.
We ditched that one.
We didn't do that one this go around, but we figured let's go at least ECW with this, and we went with the 05 one.
For sure.
We'll definitely do the 06 at some point soon.
Either way, maybe next Thursday. In fact, let's put that on the calendar. We'll just do it next.
Is that what you want to do? All right.
We're doing 06 next Thursday.
All right.
Easy on everyone. Either way, Dynamite was a blast. It's been a blast of a show. Do you know when you're on next?
Probably next Thursday. At least for sure. That's when
you're not before then. Either way,
we'll find out. I don't know.
We'll see him soon. WrestlingRepublic.com. Anthony Ricciardi, head of opinions. Check out his opinion articles. We got a few more comments here before we go. He's got a Punk piece coming up
Saturday morning.
Kobe Galanzowski with the woo. March 76. What's up? And then can't wait for Kobe. And then I will say check us out tomorrow. That will be, I believe, noon Pacific, 8 in the UK, and 3 Eastern. And I'll be hosting, and like and subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks so much for tuning in. And on behalf of Wrestling Republic and me and Anthony, you guys are the best. See you guys soon.